Switch? We didn't get switched back.
No, no, I've been told this is where I am.
Sorry, I have the name tag while you were gone. We can switch back if you want. If you want to hear the backstory.
Are you ready over there, Mike? Mike? You guys should join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome all of you to the Township work session for February 6th. Chair comments, we have an executive session prior to the meeting to discuss personnel. Next item would be presentation items. Possible action be taken by the board at the next business meeting. A master concept planning for police department. Kimmel and Bogrette.
All right, thank you. So tonight we have Matt McCoy from Kimmel Bogrette to present the master concept plan idea. And the board has been forwarded a copy of the proposal as well as a background of what the service is that they provide. So Matt, great, thank you very much. Wheel to advance. Okay. Thanks for having me here tonight. My name is Matt McCoy. I'm a principal with Kimmel Bogrette Architect. Our firm is located in Blvd, so just 30 minutes south of New York here. We do this across the state. Provide this service to help municipalities that know they have a need for some planning and help to provide a path to get there. Whether that be through renovating existing buildings or coming up with a new solution. We're pretty well versed in it, and your problem here is certainly not unique.
That's inauspicious.
Technical difficulties. Batteries.
I can do it, man.
See the button.
There we go. When all else fails, yes, I can work, man. Cool. All right. Sorry about that. No problem. Okay. So our firm mission is extraordinary solutions for ordinary budgets. We're trying to find ways to get you the most building, the most program at the end of the day, through the most creative means that we can figure out. We have a commitment to service and accountability throughout our process, and our focus is really constructed buildings, not paper drawings. And what we mean by that is, at the end of the day, we want to come up with a plan that you all are able to implement. We don't want to show you something that you can't afford or something that's not achievable on the capital that you have available. So at the end of the day, for us to have a successful process, we want you to have a building that you can actually build and occupy and use. That's myself and my other two partners. Briefly, and as I mentioned, we have over 90 different municipal clients, mostly in Pennsylvania, a little bit in New Jersey. Plenty of good references that I can provide if you want to speak to any of them about the process and the services that we provide. For us, at the end of the day, we want this building, in whatever form it comes, to really establish your own community identity. We don't want a building that could just be put anywhere. We want to create a building that is unique to New Britain Township, to your constituents, to your residents, and a place that makes sense to its context. So we really want to develop an individualized solution for you, so that it speaks to your township and helps to kind of foster that community. So the master concept planning process that we offer is sort of a 5-step solution that we found incredibly helpful to kind of get an answer quickly. Typically, it runs about 60 to 90 days, so 2 to 3 months to kind of go from the beginning to get to the end to have some cost and solution. I'm going to work through what those steps are, but we come into this a lot where there's a need and that it's going to cost money at the end of the day, but the two are kind of unreconcilable without knowing some more facts. So we like to think that this process gets us to that answer in a relatively quick period of time, help you figure out what the need is from a building and program side, and then help you to figure out what the budget that you need to allocate to kind of get there in whole. First step for us is determining our project mission. So that would be sitting down with all the key stakeholders and really defining what will be success on this project. We want to, as I said, we want to make it unique to the township. We want to infuse it with your values and your goals. And we want to really get everybody on the same page collectively so we can make some complicated decisions and stay on track as we go through the process. Not have, crazy ideas come in down the line that maybe we need a community center too. If that's not what we talked about at the outset, what we want to do is kind of define the path, what pieces of the program are going to be there, and then use the document that we create here to help keep everything as originally agreed by all key stakeholders. Second thing we're going to do is what we call our intelligence gathering phase. And really, this is just us gathering information on your existing conditions, on your existing facility. So in this particular case, what we want to do is really dig in on your facility here, analyze its strengths and weaknesses, let you know what issues we see, or conversely, what opportunities we see. So is it a good candidate to renovate, or are there a number of problems that will create cost drivers down the road as we get into the process? So we want to kind of give everything a fair look across the board, and then give you some information that we can collectively make decisions about which path to go. What this does is it allows us to identify big ticket, high dollar cost items early in the process, so that they don't become a problem once construction actually starts. So if we know we need a new roof, that's something that we want to identify. We can get that tested and check that out. We want to understand it. We want to understand these things so that there's no surprises once construction starts. We want to avoid those kind of change orders and things that unexpected costs down the road. So we want to identify them up front. The third thing that we'll do, and the first 3 steps kind of run collectively together, but the third thing we'll do is kind of sit down with all the different departments and really come up with a building program. We know that there's a need certainly for the police, so we want to sit down and understand their individual needs, what they need to operate successfully, what they need to kind of function in an efficient and fluid manner, which is really key to a lot of the police spaces that we do. So I want to sit down with them and sort of define those spaces, define their sizes, and put all that together. As part of that experience, we'll talk to anybody that the stakeholders would like us to. We can talk to the administrative side of things and kind of put together a holistic solution for the entire municipal complex. But what we would do is a little more than just kind of sizes and square footages. We do want to kind of do some descriptive things about how things should look and feel, and kind of get everybody on the same page about what the building might look like before we've actually drawn anything. And we find that it's a good way to kind of reconcile the program to the plan when we do get to that point and put together some solutions for everybody to review. Of course, after we get the information for the first 3 things, then we'll sit down and work on actual solutions. And what that means for us is starting holistically, taking a look at the entire site, and then we'll zoom in from there. So from the site, we'll zoom into the buildings. From the buildings, we'll develop detailed plans that are reconciled to the program that we put together. And then finally, once we have an agreed upon concept from a layout standpoint that everybody's happy with, we will put together some information, exterior renderings and different views that show what the facility could look like at the end of the day. And we want to make sure that it's sort of reconciled to to what it would look like when it's actually constructed. The last thing that we'll do, after we have all that together, is work to put together a high-level, all-in cost estimate. And what I mean by all-in is not just building construction numbers, because that's not really representative of the full cost outlay for everything. We want to give you an all-in number that kind of is inclusive of everything that will take you to get through the process. So that would be soft costs, including design fees, furniture, any land development or permitting fees that would be a part of that. We want to give you as much information as possible so you can assess what the total outlay will be at the end of the day. It'll be sort of high level, but we'll break it into some different programmatic pieces so that people can understand it. That helps with some different grant applications and things like that if we get down the road to that point. But everything will be sort of based off a range, a high and a low range of square footage to kind of give you a sense of where the project might reasonably fall between. Based off the decisions that we make as we go through the process. I think if we get all these things right, then you're in a good position then to move forward. We do a lot of public construction work in the state of Pennsylvania. There's a lot of risk associated with it, and we feel like we have the history and experience to know where to look to where those problems arise. Multi-pronged construction can be a complicating factor. We understand that. We understand the issues that come with that. And by getting the process right up front, I think it really helps from a cost control standpoint as we get further down the road into an actual building project. And lastly, I just have a few examples. I want to be mindful of people's time, but just a couple examples to highlight here of some similar recently completed projects. So this is a new police and administration building that we finished up about a year ago in Hampton Township, which is right outside of Harrisburg, PA. That's sort of representative of the quality of drawing that we'll help to do from a site planning perspective, really look at all the components together and how they come together. Detailed building plans, as I mentioned, and then finally some renderings. This one was completed, and we really like to make sure that the vision we come up with, try to hold that through line all the way through the process, so that what you bought into initially is what you get at the end of the day, should you elect to move all the way through into the construction phase of the project. Just another shot here. This is another one up in Hanover Township. That's Hanover Township up outside of Allentown, right by the airport. That was the facility that they were currently working under. We really came up with a comprehensive municipal plan that focused on their administration pieces and their public works. They were very interested in green design and green solutions, which we could talk about and see if that's something that the township would like to explore. This particular project was on geothermal energy. Had a green roof and then had solar powered panels as well. So you can see in the planning stages, and there's its construction. Again, this is sort of the public meeting room. Again, just those kind of before afters that we want to make sure that we tie them all together. And that photo just kind of highlights some of the interesting features that we had on this one. Every client's a little different, every township's a little different, but their goals were kind of heavily on the energy savings and things that they could work into their building over time. This one's Valley Township in Chester County. This was a police facility as well as administrative offices, working that into some surrounding parks on their adjacent grounds. So again, rendering to the built view. At the end of the day, we really want to work on getting this close. And finally, this is just a smaller sort of renovation project in Rapid Township that we completed. The existing municipal buildings over to the left. I didn't want to have one here where we sort of reuse some of the pieces that were there. Came up with a plan to kind of wrap around the outside of it, give it a facelift, and then renovate the building on the inside and bring it up to speed. Not sure what happened to those photos there, so I apologize. And then finally, this is a larger police and administration building that we're doing out in Western Pennsylvania, South Bath Township. This is basically for 36 officers, so it's one of the larger police buildings that we've done. Planning on adjacent municipal complex, but floor plans here for the police, upper level floor plans, and then the whole administration complex here with some renderings, and then just a shot here to show that That's under construction now, trending to be complete later this summer, hopefully, if everything goes well. So I want to be mindful of everybody's time. Just wanted to kind of give an overview of what we do. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I have one question. Since you have done so many different buildings, do you actually go back and ask your clients how they feel the process has gone, and if what they were thinking came true?
Yeah, we do try to check in, and we're in contact with a number of our clients because we like to use them as references. A lot of people, when they're at this stage of the planning right now, are kind of uncertain about how everything's going to go. So we find it helpful to maintain contact with a lot of our clients and then use them as references. I know a number of instances, they'll have different townships out to kind of walk through the building, talk about their experience, and you know, kind of reconcile those two factors. So we do stay in touch with a number of our clients, and happy to connect you to any that would be appropriate for scope and scale. At the end of the day, we can provide that.
Has there been any points where you've thought, we thought that would be a great way of doing a meeting room, but then actually turned around and went, there's been unforeseen sound issues or things, and you've changed your mind in how aesthetics or design has gone?
I don't believe so. I mean, I think there's always some lessons to be learned as kind of new technology and things like that come on board. It certainly makes you reconsider about how you may have designed a room. Certainly a public meeting room from 20 years ago isn't going to really function the way we would like it to function now. So I think it's always a learning process for us. I think as new information comes online, it's important to understand it and try to integrate it. At the end of the day, what that'll do is, you know, by being flexible in the spaces and the approach, it'll allow them to evolve and change over time. So that's really how we look at it. It's kind of a constant learning process, but I can't think of any sort of major reviews or redecisions that we have.
Okay.
Any questions at this point?
No.
Great.
Hopefully you can move forward with some of these ideas.
Absolutely. We'd be thrilled to. So thanks so much for your time this evening. I appreciate it. And, look forward to hopefully continuing the conversation. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is subdivision land development projects. Authorized to be taken board at the next business meeting. Reference 180 New Britain Boulevard and 354 Schoolhouse Road, sketch plan. Introduce yourself and
Gotcha. All right, I'm Tim Fosnot from Rousseau Associates. We've been before you for Independence Lane and then also the 180 New Britain project that we added parking along here. Since then, 180 New Britain Associates had purchased 354 Schoolhouse Road, which was a residential property, which they have since demolished. The purpose of this plan is to consolidate these two lots into one lot and construct additional parking, 43 spaces, which would be in addition to, you know, the continuation of the existing parking that already is out there along Schoolhouse Road, and then 18 trailer spaces and 5 additional loading docks. The circulation for the employees would remain and just isolated to the parking area, and the trucks would utilize the existing entrance off of New Britain Boulevard and then exit that way too. So the circulation patterns would not change. It's simply just increasing the parking, adding some trailer parking spaces, and then the loading dock. We were before the planning commission in January to get preliminary feedback from them. And one of their biggest requests would be a heavy screen along Schoolhouse Road to buffer any residential development that may happen in the future. our plan is to keep the residential buffer or the buffer that exists as much as possible and then supplement that. Obviously, there's a hole here where the existing house was. So we will add, increase the buffer in that area. One of the reasons that I wanted to come before you, I had approached this with Gilmore. When we had done the conservation easements for the 180 New Britain property, we had the conservation easement come here, which was basically the existing deck screen across Schoolhouse Road. And then we had a conservation easement here, which was basically the area leading up to these stormwater basins. As part of this project, approximately 4,500 square feet of this conservation easement that was put into place for the 180 New Britain project is going to be disturbed. So we're requesting to do a swap. So basically we will conserve this area here and then this area here, which will be the total required for this whole project plus the area that we're displacing. So it would basically be a swap of those areas. So you would be in total the same amount, but we would just be changing where those conservation districts were, or conservation easements were located. So I wanted to come before you to get some of your feedback on that idea before we proceeded forward. We have a number of zoning variances that we have to get before we can move forward with plan development, but just wanted to start that discussion.
Can I jump in?
Sure,
Actually, I think it'd be beneficial to go over the couple variances.
sure.
And then also, any other, I know we did a sketch plan letter.
Yep.
I know we focused, and I think you're involved in the last application about road improvements and.
Yep.
What your client's willing, I believe he's here tonight.
Yeah, no,
And,
he had a-
and that's fine. I mean, we're very nice to deal with. I just think we should go over the variances
Sure.
real briefly and just talk about the road improvements or. Extent of your other proposed improvements.
Sure, sure. Number one, so A1. This is regarding storing material on site. Is there an issue? I didn't really understand this comment, I guess I should say. A1.
All right, actually, I was gonna get into that one. The two variances that have you applied yet to zoning hearing board?
No, we're not there yet.
One's related to impervious surface.
Yep.
So explain what you're proposing to do there.
So basically our impervious, the maximum impervious surface would be 65%, and we are over at 73.59 combined for the whole entire site. So we would be seeking a variance for that increased overage.
So we'll go, what are you currently before the second phase?
We were just under that
So
65%.
you're compliant.
Yes, we were compliant.
So this parking lot you're asking to go from 65 impervious up to 73 and a half.
Yep.
So that's the one variance that you. And then your other one,
The other one was the building setback from paving. So in this corner, we are less than the 20 feet. That's
did you receive that variance your last application?
no. Mm-mm. Yes, we did. Yes, we did. For this one and Independence Lane, we both got that.
Okay, so that's kind of keeping with prior project. The big one is the increase in impervious. And then your last one is related to, we raised an issue with your conditions and discussions that your zoning hearing board related to parking.
Right.
I just wanted to, can you explain the whole parking situation before? You want a reduction in parking, now you want to add more parking?
Right,
I got
right.
a couple of questions on that.
Right, so the parking is not needed at this time. They are okay with parking as it is. But the intention was, the current person using this building does not own it, it's leased. So the applicant 180 New Britain is thinking about the future. If this person leasing it doesn't use it in the future, well, what will the new users need? So they're just doing it for future tenants, possibly.
So your request of variance, that's, what's your hardship then on the impervious?
Yeah, that's,
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
I wasn't aware of that last important detail. So
Yep, it's in the
Okay.
future, if they don't necessarily need it for right now.
Okay, I was not aware of that. Sure, the board can discuss that further. I'll let that one go. Then the trailer parking, I believe someone updated me tonight on, gave some further explanation at planning commission.
Yes, so basically,
Show where that is.
the trailer parking is going to be located right here. Basically, it would be to store finished product on enclosed trailers before it's shipped off to its final destination. So it wouldn't be for long periods of time, but they need somewhere to store it under roof.
There's no long-term storage. And then, all right, well, that helped. And then the only last thing is, with your sketch plan, do you propose any improvements to Truth Town or Schoolhouse Road?
We do not, but we know based on discussions that we had with you that it's going to be required.
The ordinance requires it, I just.
Right.
All right, well, then I think that's the pretty much summary of the application.
One follow-up question there. You use the word store finished product. What do you mean by store? How long are we talking about?
It basically depends on their delivery schedule. So they might be working on a hospital and they have to have 60 pods that go out. Well, the pods, they might not be able to have all 60 of them ready at one time. So they'd have to store them for whenever their delivery is. I don't know what their delivery schedule, and they don't either. But it could be not an extended period of time, but it could be.
A couple days?
I think you need to contact the zoning officer, and if you need to add a variance to that.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct.
And that was noted in your
Yeah.
letter. Just to be clear, we know we have zoning to go through. We're not there yet. We haven't even met with our attorney. We're at sketch plan phase, fact finding, review letter. So I just want to be clear
Well,
with that.
I'm gonna keep this a little shorter. In section B4 of our letter, page 3, we recommend a bunch of road improvements in the
Yep.
section, because you're aware of these already.
Yep.
Is your client willing to do those then, and we can save some discussion on it, because I know that's what you're gonna hear from.
Yeah, we had discussed those and we knew with going with this updated plan, coming in and consolidating those, that
That was
they are a
something good.
winner. Yeah, and it made sense when I talked to Janine, this land development, they already had them completed. So continuing that.
And that's exactly what I recommended. Continue the improvements. We can work with you in the intersection radius, but there's some inlets there, whatnot. There's some trees there, which we can scale it back to save the trees.
Yeah.
If not, you'll have to do some buffering. So, okay, I have no other comments then.
Question?
Nope.
I'm just a little curious, when you came in before, you had a plan and that's what you needed, the additional parking, are you going to put that in?
I'm not sure. They've gone back and forth because the current tenant doesn't need it. They've gone back and forth on whether they will actually construct it at the same time that they would construct the trailer parking spaces.
Okay. And the trailer parking, that's all new also. Why is that needed now and it wasn't needed before?
Well, they thought they needed it, but they weren't sure whether they were gonna purchase this or not. So, at the time, they thought they have other warehouses, so 92 County Line Road, they purchased that as a warehouse to store their product. But this is just to store the product in the enclosed trailers in that area. So it's obviously more efficient now that they purchased that property to, have it on site.
Now, you said that these trailers have finished product and they were under roof?
Either enclosed, like just a regular trailer that you would see
Okay, well, I
driving down the road, it would just
mean, how you're under roof, it means you're gonna have a roof over top of these
Well,
trailers.
enclosed.
Oh, okay.
So they're not the shipping container style boxes, they're actually on wheels, they're not stacked like shipping containers, they're actually,
They're
okay,
gonna be the trail, like a,
yep, on wheels, gotcha.
Not a flatbed trailer, an actual.
no, it has to be
trailer.
enclosed or else the product will get damaged.
Other questions?
I have one more, the applicant that's using this, are they the owner of the property?
No,
They're just leasing it.
they're leasing.
So
it.
this is for their use, particular use?
Well, I mean, any type of warehouse usually has a trailer parking associated with it, so that future tenants would utilize that as well. But the parking at this point would not be utilized by them. I mean, perhaps it would because somebody might park there because it's closer, but they don't need that to fill their number of employees on site.
Were there loading docks? Are these loading docks also at that corner?
So there were already 3 loading docks, so they're proposing 5 additional for a total of 8. And that's just to unload and load the product back in.
In the past, we've considered having a developer hold parking in reserve. I mean, that's a
Right.
situation that might apply here.
I agree. Well, that too, I mean, they can go to zoning hearing board, they can make that a condition. I can't require it, but I probably would encourage in this situation, you plan for it, maybe worry about that a little later. Instead of trying to get it, I don't know what your hardship would be on that. and
Yeah,
it's a
especially-
way to work.
If you don't have any need for it now, what's your hardship to
Keep it
build?
green.
Right.
I mean, if you're not really impervious, then we would definitely just say, just put it, design it, have it green, but.
We won't be under impervious even.
No, I know, I'm saying,
Yeah.
you're with.
But so you'd still have to put the driveway through where the proposed parking lot
Yeah, you
is,
do everything in good.
except the parking.
Scenario, you would have it all laid out, through connection, everything, and then just the parking area would be green. Then we created it, when it's ready to go, they just leave it, put the curb in,
Right.
infrastructure.
My question? Comments?
So as for the conservation easement, is that swap something that you would be willing to entertain?
I have no objection. I looked at the layout very briefly. I don't see any problem with that. I'd recommend the board. If they have objection to it, they should say that now, but based on your layout and how we're gonna, do the rest of the site work, I don't see a problem with that.
What exactly is the conservation? What's on it currently that the gray area that you want to remove?
So this area is currently trees. And then we would just be proposing a swap to cover the
And what's,
trees over here.
Trees on the other side of that too.
okay,
Yeah, so all the areas that we're proposing to conserve are already existing vegetation. And we would obviously enhance that, to create a continuous buffer there.
onto Schoolhouse there. Well, I'd just like to see the impervious kept to the minimum that's actually needed to conduct business. Not have a situation like we do over off of Manor Drive where we have acres and acres of empty parking lot.
Or the Acme.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
another large facility just down the street from this one?
Mhm.
I think we have too much parking required in some of our ordinances because I've ever yet to see any shopping center fully parked.
All right, well, thank you for your
Thank
feedback.
you very much.
Thank you.
We'll be back eventually.
Next item, zoning hearing board applications. Do we have any or none or? Okay. Informational updates. Departmental updates, administration.
Thank you. Before I get into, or I should say, before Mike gets into the 2023 fee schedule update, there's something that I would like to discuss with the board briefly and get some guidance on. And that has to do with our continued efforts to look at the budget from last year and look at things that we've been budgeting for and how we're tracking spending. Specifically, I'd like to talk about fuel expenses. We had some numbers in the budget that have been carried over numbers that we thought were healthy numbers, but then if you all remember last year, the prices at the pump have been a little outrageous. Specifically, fire and EMS fuel expenses. From what I understand, around 2017, 2018, the Board of Supervisors voted to, or made a decision to budget $7,500 for fuel, fire department fuel expenses, and $10,000 for EMS fuel expenses. And that's been in our budget since about 2018. From what I have gathered, the understanding was that the township purchases gas and diesel at a rate that is less than going to the Wawa. We budgeted $30,000 in our fuel and oil expenses in our general fund, and then separate $7,500 and $10,000 for fire and EMS. Prior to last year, we've never been in excess of any of those budgeted numbers. As we're reviewing end of year closeout documents for 2022, we noticed that not only are we over in the $30,000 of township utilized fuel and oil, the fire and EMS are also over budget. From what I could, from what I've been told, our resident historian, Randy, the understanding was that the township wanted to donate in kind that $7,500 to fire, $10,000 to EMS on an annual basis. Anything that was in excess of those budgeted amounts, the township would then bill the fire company and EMS. I have been unsuccessful trying to find any documentation defining that. So I would like to ask the board for a simple motion to authorize me to work with the solicitor to draft a resolution for future consideration that defines how much we want to allocate to fire and EMS, and what the ramifications are if those values are exceeded. Get something in writing, and then circulate that to both fire and EMS. Get them to sign it so they understand what they are to do also.
Will
Any
that-
recollection of what the deal was?
Basically, what he said was correct. I thought, again, this is testing my memory. I thought we were basically just making a donation to them of that amount of money.
No, that's not how it
No,
works.
they were to fill up the truck and the ambulances from the public works
Yep.
tanks. I think I seem to recollect that it was set at such a high number that we would never have to worry about billing them. So
Possibly true.
I think the original intention was that since they're both, well, since one of them is a purely voluntary force and the other one doesn't ever get any Medicare reimbursements, that we were just doing our best to cover all of their fuel costs and never bill them. So that's the bigger question.
So do they only get fuel from us?
I can't answer that question. I thought they were supposed to get fuel from somewhere else, but I don't know if they get any from Chalfont or not.
How much over budget were they last year?
Good question. So fire budgeted $7,500. They were over by just like $2,700. EMS, we budgeted 10,000 and they were over by $8,251.
By 8,000.
Wow.
Yes.
That would be probably what, COVID and all that kind of fun stuff, helping drive all that as well, or,
Here,
yeah, what's the,
Where are we tracking?
That's
It's
a-
too early to.
yes.
yeah, but how they have more fire engines, significantly more than
Yeah, but-
ambulances.
Yeah, but the ambulance seems to be out all the time, and you remember, if we're gonna
Yeah.
add more senior assisted living,
Yeah.
they're there probably 3 or 4 times a day.
I don't know
So,
if the ambulance company could afford an $8,000 fuel bill.
Extra, an $8,000 extra fuel.
On
bill.
top
If
of
we-
on top,
10,000 that we've
18,000.
already
Yeah, it's been
Yeah.
18,000.
So that's a whole nother conversation too, what
Mhm.
for
Well-
2022, since we don't have any documentation about what we need to do to bill them and any overages, the board can also discuss that.
well, I think EMS is really
I think there's
Under the-
training, yeah.
under the
Oh,
gun
yeah.
to hand them an $8,000 bill without again,
Any warning or
Ms.
anything?
Shortall's idea to have our board representatives come in and tell us what's going on, would really like to be implemented, that because we'd have some idea what their financials situation is. They're hardly something we can do without.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to eat last year's, to be honest,
Well, in good faith.
in
we
good
should-
faith, yes.
We cannot give them a bill that we know that they may not be able to make. So in good faith, do 2022, but with the proviso that we would like to have
We need
within
to
the next
discuss
month,
it.
Yeah,
some more information, assess a resolution, something to come back to us and say, how can we support them in the best way,
Yeah,
shape or
and I-
form?
yeah, and I think we need to get that information from the other
Yep.
municipalities as well, because
Yep.
I
We
thought
should
they
not be
got
the only
fuel
ones.
from Chalfont. I thought they did.
Yeah, because the Chalfont, the EMS does, what's their range? What's their,
Wherever they
Excellent.
get sent.
Yeah, they primarily, it's New Britain Township and Chalfont. But they
Yeah.
do sometimes go up to Plumstead area.
Yeah.
I mean,
And the
that's
same with the
stretch
fire?
Dublin, yeah.
they go, they're a little further afield.
Yeah.
fire.
They go wherever they
Yeah.
need it.
So maybe we should invite them for an informational session next month as well.
I think you'd want to know in addition to whether or not there's other fuel available, whether or not it's being utilized. I think human nature typically would be,
Go
if you're
to-
receiving an unlimited source of free resources, why would you go to a different one? when you
Yeah.
just keep going to the same? And I'm not saying that they're monopolizing us, I'm just saying that would just make sense for anybody.
Yeah, if they've never gone over.
Right.
Yeah.
Then,
And they'd go closer to home.
Yeah.
We're the closest.
yeah, but we're the easiest to get, yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of getting the vehicles in and out, so.
So I would like to make that motion. Is that a
Well-
simple
Are we
motion?
allowed-
No, we're not
put a
making-
Motion on, we're not allowed to add a
It
motion. on-
wants to,
We're not making a,
Like,
Well,
It's
because
not
it's
on the
not,
agenda.
but we're not not sending them a bill though.
We
We're not doing any.
don't need, I don't think you need a motion. I mean, if it's just,
consensus.
if you're just directing the staff to work with the solicitor to develop a resolution, I think it's just that simple. And based
Yeah.
on the conversation I've heard tonight, I think that we have to go ahead, Matt.
Do we have to make an amendment to the budget?
Not for now.
For
You
the,
already-
It's not being presented.
It's only a budget.
no, for last year,
Those last
okaying the
years.
payment over, okay. Alright.
I don't think so either.
Okay.
but I think we should send out an invitation to treasurer or at least to our representative that we've appointed to EMS,
Who is our EMS rep?
Holly Polito.
Okay.
And
I
Greg's
think
our
treasurer is
liaison.
still Eileen Bradley.
I don't know if she is or is she?
I don't know. Maybe they just didn't update their website.
Mhm.
But we should be getting reports
To know what's going
Yeah, we
on
should.
there.
twice a year minimum.
Yeah, I would think that would be normal, at least twice a year.
Send them an invitation. They can't refuse.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. 2023 fee schedule update, Mr. Walsh.
So, the board was boarded, as we discussed at the first meeting, we, as staff, were evaluating a fee schedule. This is something that, not only developers, but our residents have to interact with. And we had a lot of fees that we felt were redundant, made it a little confusing to navigate. And evaluated the cost of some of the things to make sure we're covering township's expenses when it comes to individual projects or sites, things like that. Making sure that we're covering our administrative expenses with the fees in there. The board was forwarded a memo last week, along with a red line version of the fee schedule. That outlined all those changes, and I just want to know if the board had any questions or anything about the changes we're proposing, and there are no issues. We will have a formal resolution along with the new fee schedule to be approved at the 27th.
Any questions by anybody at this point?
No,
Good question.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. Okay, next is the police. We have new lockers, new vehicle. You're up, chief.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. The first item, for the board's consideration is the police department locker purchase. Board's been provided with a memo outlining the purchase and the additional quote and information on the lockers. As mentioned, this is a budgeted item for 2023. It was something that we came up with under the capital improvement plan and is listed under the ARPA funds for payment of the lockers. You've all seen the police department. We have lockers that are about this wide. They don't afford for much storage of uniforms or equipment. Basically, the grade school lockers, I guess you said. So we identified this as you know, as Matt was working on the furniture and stuff like that for the administrative staff. This was something that we identified for the police department is kind of an immediate need and something that can, depending on what happens in the future, if we decide to renovate this building, the police department, or build a new facility, these lockers can be repurposed into one of those. So we're identifying things that can be repurposed regarding whichever avenue we decide to go down. In addition to the lockers for the officers, we also identified a need for gun lockers. Right now we have no way for the officers to secure their weapons properly when they're bringing detainees or prisoners into the facility. This is an accreditation issue. It's also a safety issue. Officers should not be going into the cell area, the one little cell area that we have, or the holding room that we have while they're armed. That's a best practice. I was surprised when I got here that we did not have that. Because I know my previous agency, we've had it for over 30 years. So this is something that we definitely identified as well as a safety and risk need. So the recommendation is for the board to approve the purchase of the personal lockers and the gun lockers. And of course, there's an issue of staff will have to determine how to cover the excess quoted amount, which was over the budget.
How long would it take for you to receive these? Specifically the gun lockers?
I believe they said it would be 10 to 12 weeks.
Okay.
I would say that timeline's accurate based on what we got for the storage system.
Okay.
Gonna be at least 3 months.
And you have appropriate space to put them up in the police department?
Yes,
You've already highlighted somewhere to put them.
the storage room is nearing completion of being empty.
We,
You are gonna
we
take a
need to
picture
have a
of this one?
tour.
You are gonna take a picture when it's empty?
Now, I want to see it
I
in
can invite
person.
you down, yeah.
Yeah.
See it
I want to
firsthand.
post a clean out tour.
So these new lockers and assorted storage areas, they are fully transferable if we,
Yeah, they're like modular.
so if
Basically,
we,
they connect together.
we make building changes down the road, they can be reused. And have you had, I know that this was originally an ARPA funded budgeted item for, 40,000, and it's not quite double that, but it's approaching. So where have you had an ability to look at this year and figure out?
One of the areas, based on the conversation from Kimmel, one of the areas that we identified is we budgeted $100,000 for the assessment of the building and the plans, and their quote, I believe, is just around 50,000. So we do have some additional budgeted money in that line.
Okay. I mean, so you're still anticipating vehicles, everything else that you have is definitely planned on being.
Yeah, that's your vehicle that, as far as what we're planning for 2023 capital improvement plan.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, we may or may not be able to get the second vehicle this year.
Okay,
So
Right.
that would be another area as well.
but this is an important item in terms of accreditation and just safety and everything else.
Safety and just, you know, facility improvement,
Mhm.
you know, trying to make it a better place to work.
Okay, all right, very cool. Thank you.
Other questions?
No questions.
Adding a female locker room, which we don't have too.
So yeah, we don't have a female locker.
That would be the other important add.
Yes,
Okay. I guess you're next with the,
Please come.
So
Sure.
yes, the next item is the new police vehicle purchase and upfit. Again, this is a budget item under the capital improvement plan. And we've recently lost one of, well, it's gonna be decommissioned due to some mechanical issues that would probably cost over $6,000 to fix, so we'd rather not put money into something that may not last another year. Our vendor, Chapman Ford, has identified a vehicle that they anticipate will be completely built by the end of March, beginning of April timeframe. It will be a hybrid model of the model that we wanted last year and we didn't wait for any longer. So this will get us the hybrid model. And then along with that, the upfitting that we got in the previous vehicle, we'd just be doing the exact same thing. So the total for that so far between the two of them is just under $68,000. We have budgeted $87,500 for a new vehicle. We do need to purchase some other items for the vehicle as far as a new computer, and we're going to be looking at in-car camera systems. But we'll be well under budget for the purchase of the new vehicle. And to my point earlier, we're budgeted for a second vehicle under the capital improvement plan for this year. The dealer could make no promises that he'd be able to get that vehicle. But he does know that we want another one.
gotcha.
so this hybrid vehicle that we're getting was technically a hybrid vehicle we were looking for last year that we couldn't get.
Yes.
And then bought a regular.
And then we
because
got
we
the
couldn't wait.
regular gas one
Right.
instead.
Yeah, we never canceled the order.
Right. Okay. Any questions about that?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
All right, thank you. Just one note. It's not only my reports, but we did receive 27 applicants for the entry level position. We narrowed the list down to 20 that we'll interview. So we'll be conducting interviews that will complete by the end of this month. And and then we'll start the backgrounds based on how the list plays out.
Very good.
Thank you. Public Works, Keller Road Bridge.
So I don't have too much to talk about with Keller Road Bridge. I just want to keep it on every agenda, just so we don't lose sight of it. The township engineer and I have been talking about some approaches to remedy the stream bank issues with the gabion baskets that have collapsed. And he and I briefly looked at it last week, some ideas. We don't have anything fully solidified yet. I don't know, Craig, if you had anything else you want to add? You do?
I don't agree with your assessment. I'd like to take this off for a year. I had a meeting with our permitting engineer who does all our stormwater. She's our stormwater guru, different from our construction department, did the report. After I talked with Matt, I think he knew I was leaning towards, not sure I want to touch any of this right now as far as the gabion baskets. They're underneath the bridge, or they're supporting, they're protecting the embankment. The one set of gabions did fall over. I was not involved in the original discussion with Eileen Bradley back in 2020 about, oh my gosh, the creek, everything's blown away. I looked a little closer, talked to Matt. I started getting the feeling that maybe this isn't something we should do now, because the PennDOT comes in a year from now, says you need to fix these abutments. Everything we have just spent money on would be out the window, and it could easily be within 1 year. I asked our engineer to evaluate my recommendation. She 100% agrees that it's not worth it right now. She has a preliminary design. She knew about this project. She worked with our structural department on your report and also Walker's Road. So she knows what we want, what we're looking for. And she agreed that I would not do anything right now. There's nothing that's an emergency at all. PennDOT did not identify any concerns with it. I took a look at it again. We have it documented. And I think you should put this project to hold unless something new changes. Or you're willing to spend some money that I'm not sure how long till PennDOT comes back and says, hey, you need to fix X, Y, and Z. I don't know what PennDOT's gonna ask you to fix. Or if you decide to move forward with the whole entire project, then that's a different story. We'll incorporate that stream restoration in with it, but it's right under the abutments, the most important part. I asked Janine for a little history of what her and Eileen and I think I'm not sure if you were out there, but Ryan from Public Works was out there. And it seemed that we were going to be doing work that would be ripped up with any type of upgrade. So I think we should wait and see now. Again, I just had a meeting today, got this update. I told Matt I would, dig a little deeper. There's nothing wrong. I mean, the gabion baskets partially did fall in, but they're stable. Everything's, I'm not sure why the big issue back in 2020, that was not here. I was not involved either.
There was a proposal. I'm trying to recall. I thought it was you that came in and gave us two prices because Janine wasn't at the evening meetings.
That was for the bridge for repair versus replacement of the entire structure.
Right.
Nothing to do with it because
Nothing to
at
do with
that
it.
point you're ripping up all underneath and redoing everything.
Right.
So
Are we still?
now that part of it's different. So if Matt wants to continue that dialogue, but I thought we discussed the last time is I went through PennDOT's report again. I asked her opinion as well. She said, there's nothing in here that says you have to do any of that. If they come back next year with, this was their initial inspection. Within a year, they'll probably do a full blown and they may identify certain things. And that's the other thing. They may identify another two things that we need to do that we just did something
Right.
similar, but didn't meet PennDOT standards. And I can't always say what that standard would be until they inspect it. They have a consultant that does that.
So is this one of those issues where now that PennDOT's involved and the cat's out of the bag? It
100%, 100%.
just kind of,
have
it's
to wait
either
for them
replace
to
the
do
bridge or wait to hear what PennDOT says.
And
Right.
the rules of engagement have changed. I have to advise you that I may recommend something that's good enough and stays within your budget. PennDOT may come back now that it's official and say, thanks, but you need to also do this. And we just got done, only
So we
doing
could
X, Y,
spend 200 grand and then PennDOT
And
says
she
you gotta
felt
tear it all
something
up and
different.
do something different.
Now, permitting and design is good. It's a general permit, which is great. There's no big permits. We're within 50 feet of the stream. So if they come back and ask us to do things along with other repairs, I don't think the permitting process and our design costs would be that expensive to do, but it's the actual material cost, so you might lose all that. And some salt costs, but the overall project's not very big. It's just her recognition was to wait to PennDOT as well.
Is the possibility of just closing it still on the table at all, or?
They did not recommend it.
I-
This does not recommend closing it.
And I still haven't gotten enough. I haven't gotten comfortable enough with everybody's answers that they'll figure out how to do emergency services up there if we close it. I don't think that's a good enough excuse or reason. I think that if we have an open bridge and it's used by emergency services, it needs to stay open. That's
I mean, what I recommend.
my perspective.
Max, has any feedback from Public Works, anybody driving over, any type of, we should notify PennDOT and then also look into it, but PennDOT now is the legal bridge. I mean, they are now officially, you're on the list. And in fact.
Now
they
it's
said
in
they
their
have-
hands.
Are we number 430 out of 527 or are we number 230
They're
out?
asking for plans, so I think Matt's gonna send a little sample or some color or some napkin design, a temporary bridge.
I just don't wanna see us on the news with a bridge broken and a
We can blame it on
Bus-
PennDOT then.
bus hanging off of it or something like that.
Officially PennDOT's fault.
No, PennDOT did go out and inspect it and they identified two critical things and it was all
Signage,
signage.
yeah.
related.
Yeah.
We addressed those things. And if they would have seen something critical, they would have flagged it and it would have been closed. So I concur with the township engineer. I think it's okay for right now. It might not look nice, it might not sound nice, but structurally,
Would I continue to budget for it and maybe keep each year, maybe add a little bit more to that, if an event, and that does come back and say, all right, guess what, you now have 3 critical things that all of a sudden it costs, I would not, and I think that's what Matt's doing, including the capital improvement plan,
I want to budget for it.
that budget for maybe add a little.
When interest rates come down.
At some point, you need to do something.
It had just never been budgeted for up to this capital plan. So long as we have it in the capital plan, whether we just, decide to delay it a year or 2, okay, but I want to keep it in the forefront.
Okay, I don't know enough about bridges. Do they ever offer grants for bridges? That's, I know.
That's also, we're going through our ARPA money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all
There was an
accounted for
infrastructure
already.
bill that came out, but this bridge would not meet any of the criteria for it.
So I've just asked, should we have a shovel ready project?
So that.
Perhaps.
So I gotta apologize. That's what got us to this point, because if you recall, I mentioned about getting project shovel ready. Here's another one, thinking this was a much larger scope of project. This wouldn't qualify for any grants. It's just not a large enough project, but I, again, wasn't in the details of it. So once I started doing that, after our last meeting, I started kind of like, wait, this is not worth it. Talked to Matt at staff meeting last week. Matt had a follow-up meeting, we got it in tonight. And just wanted confirmation that, look, this is that big of a project. I do agree you need to have shovel ready projects for grants, but I'm the one that said that at the last meeting without knowing the scope, because we hadn't really looked at it. We were focused on the bridge, not the ends of the channel. The channel's okay. I mean, I looked at it several times. Janine has it all documented. I think I'll forward everything to Matt. We have a survey plan back when the pipes were done of that area. I'll give all that to Matt. You have to have for the file that showed him that stuff, but there's nothing that makes me worried about it. And there's not that big of a project that we could go and try to apply for a grant. I kind of led you down that path at the last meeting and told Janine I'm gonna have to apologize for that. I was trying hard to find other projects. We're pushing on the grants as well, and it's just not easy to find the ones where it's free money or a really good match. So, and I agree with the bridge. I don't think based on where it is and what the impact is, it doesn't really impact the area. It's a small rural road. You're not going to find. Right, you have to get pretty lucky to have some grant come up that would meet that, but we continue to look. Matt has engaged our planner and department, Janine and I continuously look at that, but I wouldn't hold any hope for the bridge.
Interest rates below 4.
Okay. Next item is Park and Recreation, turf field at West Branch Park. We've had the conversation with PA Rush, open conversation with the residents and people who were in favor of PA Rush, people who were not in favor of PA Rush going forward with the turf field. So now it comes down to the Board of Supervisors. What do you as supervisors want to do? Do you want to technically lease a section of a township park to a private entity to allow them to install a turf field where they will have primary use, not total, but primary use of that field? So I need you all to come to a vote, and so we know which way we just tell them to go.
Why is everybody looking at me?
Because we start at one end and go to the other.
Okay, my belief is that we should not be handing over public land to a private entity. If we want a turf field in our township, we should have ownership. We should be the ones who are investing. That is my first question, and that has not come up. No one has ever answered it, but that is where I think we should be asking. Do we believe that for a relatively small group of people, though they may be a great organization for our children, they are a small part of the township? Should we be handing them the keys to our park.
So I got, that's a no.
That is
Okay.
a no. Because I do not believe that we, sorry, I do not believe, it is a no, because I do not believe that we could craft any kind of agreement, legislation, whatever, that will make us all happy. They want to invest, they are going to want to have the keys. But I believe we should have the keys. So I don't think we could ever come to an arrangement where I'd be happy to give them that. Here's our land.
Okay.
Now I'm ended.
I'm also not in favor at this time. Because I don't believe that they have really put any time and real thought into what this involves. It's as if we've had someone that's gone to the toy store and sees a shiny bright toy they want, and they've listened to the salesperson and they're just closing their eyes off. We've had him come in and tell us first that there's no maintenance needed. Then he comes in the second time and says, oh yeah, there's maintenance, but only twice a year. That's not true. They're still not looking at what they're going to need to put in. I believe they're going to need a special machine. They're going to need to build a building to put that special machine in, to have it near the turf field. I think if they want us to consider this, they need to get that engineer, get that consultant, get whoever to come in and get some plain facts. I frankly don't trust them enough that they know what they're doing, or that they're going to be around long term. The reason I asked to know who is using it and what part of New Britain Township residents, and it turns out that it's really a small minority of township residents. It's not that I don't support Rush. We have provided plenty of fields. I just don't want to do business with someone that doesn't really know what they're talking about and isn't making an effort. They need to get some skin in the game. They need to put some money out and hire an engineer and come in here and say, this is the plan, these are the alternatives. And I certainly don't want those little rubber pellets. There are alternatives, but they don't really know what they're talking about. And that gives me a great pause to give them part of the park for their mostly exclusive use, because the months they're not going to be using it, most people aren't out on the field playing. I don't like the fence idea. I don't know why they need a fence, a 4-foot fence. It's not going to keep any soccer ball in the field. And I don't think they need 60-foot light poles. But again, I don't think they've really put any skin out to convince me that I want to do business with them. I have Cynthia's concerns, but I have greater concerns about the organization and just who's in charge and what they're talking about. I don't think they're there to get. So my vote would be no.
I think a public-private partnership is a great way to be able to provide something for our township residents that we otherwise couldn't afford in any realistic time frame, when it's done in the right way. I think that there has to be a lot of discussion and commitments from both sides as far as who's going to use the park, how much time other township residents would have to be able to use the park, and concrete answers to a lot of the questions that we have all asked as far as what their commitments would be. To answer Cynthia's question about whether public-private partnerships is something that, I think you're right. It's not something we've addressed in the more general sense, but I think that it is a method, when done correctly, to be able to achieve something for our township that we wouldn't otherwise be able to do. I think that park location, and given the thoughts for the park across the street, that is intended to be a sports type of complex. Obviously, it's not going to take the whole park. It would only take a portion of the field, or the field portion of it. So the park would still be open for public use.
I think that there are details that need to be worked out. And I think that answers to questions about maintenance and things like that do need to be answered. But I'm not, I think if those, depending on what those answers were, I think I could support it. It's not something that I'm saying an automatic no to.
Greg?
This is the definition of a complicated issue. The concept of public and private synergetic relationships, I'm okay with. That's fine, especially when in the end it saves taxpayers dollars to accomplish something that we've already intended to do. If the township wanted to put lights at West Branch Park on the field that was designed to be a soccer and football field, it would cost us $250,000. And we have a private entity that's willing to do that as long as we make some concessions. Now, the concessions they're asking for, I think, are a little too much. I would like to see a greater level of negotiation go into the process before I am comfortable with what they want to do. I have a lot of concerns about the materials on the field and, the concerns about environmental impacts. And I think until some of those are answered through actual engineering and actual answers, straight answers from PA that is a problem. In terms of their relationship with, their longevity and the such, they used to be Lenape Valley Soccer. They still are incorporated as Lenape Valley Soccer. They're just called PA Rush. They've been around since 1967. So they're not going anywhere. In fact, they're trying to stay in the community and not travel farther afield. In terms of the fence, I get it. There's already a 14-foot fence on one end of the field to keep balls from going down to the t-ball fields. In terms of answering the question as to why they need a 4-foot fence, if you've ever played soccer on a turf field, the ball rolls true and it rolls forever. It's not going to stop a ball kicked in the air, but when you kick a ball on turf, it will never stop rolling. So it is, and that's the instances where, a player just knocks the ball out of bounds on the hillside, which is a 10-foot drop off. The ball's not rolling off every single time somebody just taps the ball out.
I get that.
So so that's so the fence does actually make sense when you play soccer on the field. So I am not a no and I'm not a yes. I want more answers. I'm not comfortable with the amount of actual information they provided us. It's all been extraordinarily superficial. It's all come from a brochure and it's not been sufficiently answered by a professional. So
can I add a little bit to that? One of their examples of one of the partnerships that they had said was working on was the Whitmarsh Township, which I did find this morning today, their project. The request from the sporting group that they've had a very long relationship with, they're requesting that the township commit $3 million for the construction of the 2 turf fields. And then they would still continue their relationship with the maintenance and all that sort of thing. That I could get a hand on because the township owns the property. What we're looking at is an entity asking us to give everything away. All they want from us is the piece of ground. They're not asking to have an actual partnership of you put some skin in the game. The only skin we're putting in is the property. So then to me, they are asking a big thing from us. So they are going to expect a lot from us to give up a lot. So that's
and I understand that. I think they are the only people who use that field. PA Rush is Lenape Valley Football never uses it. I don't think any other soccer organizations use it.
Organizations, no. Pickup games, yes.
And that's where the overscheduling of the fields is something that I feel they have to, they can't have it all weekend long.
But that's what they have now.
I know, but that's negotiation.
That's all negotiation.
Right.
Yeah.
I said in December, and I'll say it again, they need to hire an engineer.
Mhm.
They need to put an escrow up with the township, just like anybody else. And then look at the plans and go from there. But from what they've presented so far, it's a hard no, because I can't. Like I said, I don't have any faith that they're telling us, or they even know what they're telling us, so.
But it's
Um,
not really the plans of the actual field. It's also what's the relationship between the two? So to me, that's more a solicitor.
Well, that's negotiation.
Yes.
Yeah,
But see,
they're,
you can engineer yourselves out of whatever question you have because you'll have information, but what are they really wanting for? What is the bargaining chip that we have and what's the limit that they have?
we have the land.
Well, yeah, but, all right, so we basically have two no's. We have two yes no's. And I'm gonna vote yes. With the understanding that this is not a yes to go ahead. This is just a yes for them to start getting their ducks in a row. And to start getting us the actual hard information as to exactly who they're talking about doing the work, what sort of materials, and the biggest question I have is scheduling. That is not gonna be a 7-day-a-week PA rush field. I wanna see at least a day and a half, maybe 2 days a week, where that is open to anybody in the township. Now, if it's a group that wants to come in there, they have to go through the township and get it scheduled just like they do normally. All right? I want, case in point, I want Sunday afternoon to be open. Period. Anybody from the township can go over there and play their soccer if they want to. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I could still say no when they come back and they don't give us the right answers.
I just
That's
want, I just want them to get an engineer or a consultant or someone that knows what they're talking about to come in and propose, but it should, they need to put the money up to do it. If they aren't willing to put the money up to do it and prevent a proposal, why should we listen to them?
Well, I think, and again, I'm not speaking for them,
Right.
but I'm saying, if I was that organization, I would not want to start spending thousands upon thousands of dollars, not knowing what we as a
If you
board.
know it's all
are
going to
gonna
know
say.
anyway, right?
So if you have a majority of the board that's at least willing to discuss the situation and come to some resolutions, then they're gonna be willing to put the money into it.
Mr. Chairman, I think you all spoke to me, because I know there's a lot of engineering details. I think I understand everybody's point. I think you need to get them to a sketch plan level that they have skin in the game. And there's preliminary layouts and I mean, I think the other stuff is pretty easy to work out pretty quickly. It's how, how the stormwater is gonna work, how the environmental aspect to address a lot of the other the reports that we can review and make recommendations and start crafting conditions in that agreement that will need to be. If you get, and again, a sketch plan doesn't vest you in any type of land development, but it's you need more details to make an educated decision, I think. And there's a lot of sketch plans that come through you never see. And I think that's the kind of description you all been asking me is, I can't really weigh in until they engage someone, but they needed to have some type of good faith that you're gonna listen and work with them. And they can engage a consultant that we can work at a 10,000 foot level. I mean, you've seen plenty of sketches throughout your time. There's looking at the engineering perspective, doing some studies, but you don't do you do feasibility studies. You do information to address all the environmental, stormwater, structural safety concerns. I do think there might need to be some type of structure there. We never taled about that.
It's going to be.
But
Okay, they're
I
gonna
thought
need
they
a building.
I thought they said they needed to put a shed. I thought that was.
They mentioned in our last meeting that they would need to put a shed near the parking lot to store equipment and
Equipment
possibly the
shed,
machine
yeah.
that Supervisor.
We're
McKay
not,
brought.
we're not
Shed's
talking about a
one thing.
backyard shed. They're gonna need a building.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna do that now. And that's something I didn't
Right.
catch that before, but you have to have that, but at sketch plan level, it's not detailed, full-blown engineering like a preliminary plan, so that's the only way I can describe it to everybody else, but there needs some, and then once they post escrow, we can work
Yeah.
more through those issues.
Actually, I'm not a hard no, but with what I've been presented with, it's
Why not?
not sufficient.
it's not sufficient.
It's not sufficient.
I think holidays should be blacked out.
Yeah, 'cause
The
people,
field should, if it's a Memorial Day weekend, Labor Day weekend. Families want to go somewhere and do something. Those fields should be available. It can't just be, they have to understand it's a partnership.
As,
But see, that's the crux. We're all talking about engineering. We can always do a good plan, but that kind of stuff, are they willing to
Well,
come to the table
well,
with, that's the stuff.
that's our
See,
stipulations.
Start with the engineering issues. Start with those issues that we see as a township. This is what our hard yes or no is. This is what we want for our residents. We want access 2 days a week. We want, what did you say? Holidays free. If that's a no-go, because if that's going to be a big ornament weekend or
Then it's
something,
no-go.
then it's a no-go.
in regard to the scheduling aspect of it, when they first approached the staff and I was involved with the staff, we started discussing those things. And then when they first came in for the first public meeting where you guys started discussing this, all the engineering issues came up and the environmental impact issues came up, and you as a board instructed the solicitor's office to not go down that road any further until you had the answers to the questions that you desired. So I will say that we did start those discussions, but clearly they need to be fleshed out quite a bit more before you're ready.
Yeah, and I don't think it's our
About-
burden to start those discussions. I think it's the people that come in with the proposal.
I agree. I'm simply pointing out that they
Right.
did start that discussion.
Yeah, I mean, and they gave us
When
a
they
schedule
approached
that
the
was
Yeah, well,
insane.
they also came in and wanted first right to buy the park when we sell it. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
we
I
can't
don't
do
think they
that.
quite understand what's going on. They need to do some more work before it's something we could, yeah. I'm not a hard no, never, ever, ever, but
I understand where you're coming from.
okay.
Okay. So do you have some sort of an answer, Matt?
Clear as mud.
Yeah, just like their
Thank you,
proposal.
the video.
So what I'm hearing is that you are tentatively looking to take a baby step forward to hear more.
We're lukewarm.
And what I'm hearing from the board is that you want skin in the game, you want more engineered, legal, real plan type level stuff.
I want an escrow from them. Because I don't think it's fair that engineering and legal should be a burden. They're paid by all the taxpayers when it's not our proposal.
Yeah, just to talk to them about the schedule is costing us money,
Right.
so.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll report back.
Thank you. Finance, do we have anything, sir?
Our finance director is out this evening feeling under the weather. So if you have any questions on finance, you let me know. Talk about that. After,
The whole board needs to be part of the conversation at some point.
understood. Would you mind telling me what the problem is before we talk about it?
Do we want to recess for a second?
Yeah, I'd like to know what's going on. If it has to do with money, I think we should all know what's going on.
That's if the board is okay to recess for 5 minutes so that I can go talk to Matt.
Sure.
Fine, we can recess for 5 minutes.
Is that okay?
Clock started, go. Ready. Okay. We're back to action items. Motion to approve resolution 23.
Hold on. I'm going to turn my board comment over to our solicitor to make a statement.
Supervisor Hood has identified a question to the township manager, which in consultation between the township manager and myself, we believe requires further investigation to find out exactly whether or not it is an issue, and if so, how to address it. Well, we're gonna take a look into that immediately and come up with, find out what's happening, if it's happening. And then come up with a plan in consultation with the board to try and resolve it, and then we'll discuss that in a public meeting at the appropriate time.
Thank you very much. Now back to our action item, motion to approve resolution 2307.
Are there any other board comments? There's 4 other people.
Bill wants to go home.
Sorry, Bill.
Is there any other comment?
No, no comment from me, please.
No. Not after that one.
No comment at this time.
Okay. Now you can go to your action item.
Motion to approve resolution 230307, 9 Sellersville Road preliminary final approval amendment number 1.
I will make that motion.
I'll second.
Second, any discussion?
Would our engineer like to say anything about it?
They were here at the last meeting and
Yep.
Have a resolution that.
You do, it's a change to the grading and the maximum grading of the driveway. They presented to the board. I don't think anybody on the board had any issues with it at the time, but that's the only amendment that I recall.
I noticed the link in the board's email was not working for the material, so I did print out copies of what was in that folder for you all tonight, because I couldn't figure out that technical glitch tonight. If anybody wants to see it. If so, take one down. This is the material that was in
Not a good day
the
for
land development.
technology. It had to do with the grading of the driveway and it was approved by our engineer.
Yeah, the one from Randy that the fire from, yeah.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. No further discussion, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next item, there's a motion to approve the hire of A. Christine Nicholas as part-time event coordinator for New Britain Township as of February 14th, 2023.
I'll make that motion.
For a second,
I'll second it.
any further discussion?
I am just really excited to have Christine Nicholas join the team. She comes to us from Hatfield Township, where she did a similar job. And I think I'm just really looking forward to having her energy on staff, and can't wait until she starts.
Okay. We have a motion and a second, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Good luck to her.
I do have one ask. Would she be attending the Park and Recs meetings on a regular schedule?
I believe so.
Okay, so would
That
she
would
be
be-
attending? Oh, no, it's not next week, it's the week after, isn't
Yeah,
it?
probably starting next month.
Okay,
But gonna try and get her involved. We know I've already had initial conversations with Shell about the Easter egg hunt and Veterans Bingo. One of the first 2 things we're gonna get her involved with in the first couple of weeks.
okay.
So
It's
we
not,
plan on having her attend all those meetings where
Yeah.
those events are.
Next item, motion to approve quote from Universal Electric LLC for electrical upgrades as part of the amend redesign project. Your motion,
I'll make that motion.
for a second,
I'll second.
discussion.
So this was, if Mr. Walsh forwarded a memo to the board regarding this quote. Given that we are using ARPA funds for this expense, I am trying to have every expense as a unique motion for the board, just for a paper trail. For reporting purposes, it just makes it easier from the accounting standpoint of having a motion. We're using ARPA funds for this segment of this project. If there are any other questions, Mike is the go-to with this quote.
I'm trying to find it because I know I can't find it in the packet. Thank you.
So where is it, Mike? Can you give us a brief description of where this will be?
Yeah, that's why, that's the question.
What this
I have.
for is, for the location of the design, the redesign, we're moving the copier, so it's
Mhm.
an outlet for the copier. Where it's going to be, now we're relocating that and it's moving some of our floor power around to rearrange for that desk arrangement. Make sure we're getting power to those units. Also with the redesign, it includes, changing out our outlets and things to fit with that. The design color, they were all part of the project, so we're doing all that stuff to go with it. Not to mention the small meeting room would involve two of those hanging lights becoming recessed lights to open up visually for everybody that sits in that room. And a receptacle on the wall for a future, when we use that room to have digital usage for that room rather than a giant whiteboard, we'll have a TV up on the wall that we can use to look at plans and things like that would be in place.
I had a question about outlets. You are doing USB and USB-C outlets? Or not?
No,
I would highly recommend doing USB and USB-B and USB-C outlets in the offices because it helps not having to have adapters.
that's a good. So part of the desk features is they have a power cord that
Right.
plugs up and brings those features that you're talking about up onto the desk for the employee.
Right, but in
Like
the
meeting room.
offices, meeting room, stuff like that, they make these nice little
Okay.
outlets, yeah. You get two outlets and then you also get the USB ports
I
as
will-
well.
PM that and email. Okay, I get what you're saying now.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the desk.
Yeah, that's something a lot of people don't think about, but in this day and age, it's a handy dandy thing to have.
And it also includes swapping out all of the off-white outlets, receptacles, switches and covers to white.
Is this the problem engineering wise?
Very nice.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussions of merit? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you.
Anything else from you?
No, nothing.
Public comment? Have anybody here, for public comment?
No hand raised online.
Nothing?
Nope.
Okay, announcements. Next meeting of the Board of Supervisors will take place on Monday, February 27th at 7 p.m. in the Written Township Building. Agenda and meeting materials are posted on the Township website prior to the meeting date. And a posting of this meeting will be on the website within 24 to 48 hours. Anything else?
Chairman, if I may, I just realized, your next meeting, there might be an update in construction. I was advised, Janine mentioned, and I believe maybe the township are aware of it. The High Point, Bracket Club, I believe there's some equipment over there, I'm told, everybody's not. There will be, applying or did apply for the demo permit. I haven't talked to Randy or anybody at the township yet, but, so they are looking, you will see some activity, a lot of activity out there. It's all related to only demo at this time. We are still working on land development plans. I believe they'll be submitting them soon. But I just found out about I guess, have you heard anything yet?
About them submitting anything? No, I saw Janine's letter today and
Not yet.
communication, but I don't believe they've actually submitted for that.
But I think that demo might start before your next board meeting. So just want to make you aware it's demo only with respect to construction.
I do have one question I keep slipping in my mind. Does anyone know what's going on at County Line and Walnut Railroad? They've had pipes in that field and the
Looks like
last few,
drilling.
then they had,
Oh,
then
I
they
do.
were drilling.
Yes, sorry, I was putting the geography together. County Line River. That is their plume testing. There was. I'm not,
PCB.
yes, I can't remember if it was or is going to be a Superfund site on the Montgomery Township or Hatfield side. And those are monitoring wells that they're watching underground water and testing for.
Okay, because all the wells are on the New Britain side.
Yes. It's moving.
The mind receiver that's coming over to us.
Okay, because there was always a handwritten sign
I've seen it.
that has now been removed about warning PCV sites. And that property, I have been told, is either under contract or has been sold. That farm. So,
Stewart Farm,
is that the Stewart farm? Yeah.
old Stewart Farm. Nicholas, I think.
There's rumors. I've been contacted by realtors and things, so.
Yes, they're out there and active again. A couple of developers call asking what's going on, why hasn't it developed? Just
PCVs.
recently, last 6 months.
Super fence site?
Why not?
Yes.
Okay,
All right,
nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn,
Is there a second?
second.
In favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you all for coming. Enjoy your evening.